So what the CIA was doing is they were experimenting with prostitutes. So what they would do is they would set up a brothel, and they would have these guys go in to try to get with the prostitute, and the prostitute was a CIA agent. She would give them a drink that was laced with acid, and they would watch these guys through two-way mirrors.
That's insane.
Yeah, they were just trying to figure out, what does acid do? Like,
and
what
was
can we
just
do with
totally
people? Yeah.
unsuspecting.
Yeah. And then there's mind control experiments. There's definitely something going on with Charles Manson, and that's the Tom O'Neill book, Chaos. It's a great book about MK Ultra and the role that these guys that were running that program, that they interacted with Manson. They interacted with him in prison, and they think that they might have been the people that were supplying him with the acid, or he was using it to manipulate those kids. And the whole thing was to discredit the anti-war movement. They were trying to develop this attitude in America that hippies are dangerous and murderous. And, you know, these people that are like, stop the war, these people they're a threat.
Sure.
And so one of the ways they did it was this high-profile guy, Charles Manson. And they take this guy and they taught him how to run a fucking cult when he was in prison, most likely. They definitely.
What was he in prison for beforehand?
Oh, he's been in prison his whole life. His whole life.
Where's he from?
That's a good question. I don't know where Manson was from.
Thank you.
But the book, Chaos, I can't recommend it enough. It's fucking incredible. The guy worked on it for 20 years. I've talked about it 100 times on the podcast. If you listened to it before, I'm sorry. But that guy, who is my friend Greg's neighbor, my friend Greg Fitzsimmons, he was this guy's neighbor like 20 years ago, and he was working on this. And he got hired to write a story about the anniversary of the Tate LaBianca murders. And when he got hired to write that story, he started finding all these inconsistencies in the story. And so he started doing like real journalism, and it just like he went on a deep dive, like way too long, and he wrote it for 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
And finally, they got together, they helped him with an editor, and they put it all together, and they put together this book. This book is insane. It's insane.
Yeah, dude. It's I don't know. That's such a crazy. It's so crazy. And the thing about, I don't know if it's harder to like pull the wool over people's eyes now rather than then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because there's so many different, like we were talking about the news.
Yeah.
You know, you go on the news and you get caught in this, it's like a perpetual, it's a wheel, you know what I mean? And you just keep getting, especially now due to the algorithms that we have, you just keep getting fed the same information to like perpetuate what you want to learn about and what they want you to know about. But back then, it wasn't as accessible. So I wonder if it was harder back then to like trick the populace into believing something than it is now.
I think it was probably easier because I think they probably had more respect for institutions because they didn't have the access to them that we have now. Like, think about what a president was like back then. Presidents openly had affairs. No one reported on it. They were just revered figures. It was a different thing. Like when Kennedy was the president, sure, definitely people hated him, especially Republicans. A lot of people hated him for the Bay of Pigs, but the press didn't hate him. You know, everybody knew who he was.
Right.
That's not the case today. You know, the world is such a hostile place today. We don't have respect for institutions anymore. We don't have respect for mainstream media for a lot of fucking reasons. We don't have respect for mainstream news. We look at them like, all right, maybe this is real.
Right.
We don't look at it like this is the unbiased.
You take everything with that grain of salt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we know that there's deep political agendas in reporting any story, in the perspective, the editorializing of these perspectives. It's just there's a lot of what humans are is what we're getting influenced by. And when you're getting influenced by propaganda and horseshit all the time, it has an effect on you, whether you like it or not. It might not be 100% effective, but it has some sort of an effect on you where you're willing to let these people who are just people, they're no different than you and no different than me.
Right.
But you'll let them talk to you and talk to us as if they are in control of us.
Right.
And that is not supposed to be how America works.
Right.
And that's just a natural human power structure thing that we've had since we were tribal creatures. It's a natural inclination to want to be that and want to do that. But we have to protect against that at all costs. Because just because it seems like you would like those things to be implemented because they fit your perspective and your worldview, the problem is now there's tools in place for tyrants. And now there's tools in place for people who don't share your perspective and don't have a charitable view of human beings and are ruthless and maybe psychotic.
But that's the beginning. That's the beginning of it all too.
Yes.
It's been happening, like Nero and fucking just like Rome was super like everything. You look at like everything. It was a republic. You know, like everybody had a vote. Everybody had a say. But the guys who were running, well, everybody was drinking from lead, and everybody was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they had lead drinking vessels.
And it was just insane. And this dude built this statue, like fucking 100 feet tall of himself, and then Rome set on fucking fire, and it's crazy, and that's just been happening, and it's been repeating for forever. And I don't know exactly how long, but. You know, history repeats itself, and then you look at a cycle of like how civilizations come and go this way, and it's just like I don't know.
I know when I was a kid, I used to think about America that way. When I was a kid, I was like, well, you know, you read about ancient Greece and ancient Rome and these great civilizations that they fell. Like, what happened? Did they see it coming? And I was like, would I see it coming? Would I know it was coming? Is it going to happen to us?
Right.
We don't want to ever think it could happen to us because we're on the top. We're number one. We're fucking America.
Well, we're the youngest fucking country in the fucking world.
Yeah. And it can happen to us. Oh, you got to be real careful that we don't become just like all these ones that we talk about when we say, boy, be glad you're not living in that place. Because places go through cycles. Some places are amazing, and then they get invaded. Some places, places
look at Atlantis.
Yeah. Well, that's probably that one's probably an ocean thing.
Yeah, that's
probably
Mama Nature coming.
Yeah, that's probably an impact thing.
You believe in Atlantis,
yes,
Joe
I
Rogan?
do. Yes, I do. I think it was a real place.
You talked about the younger Dryas.
Yeah,
and I was watching a thing recently, actually, about how they think that the Egyptians just found the pyramids and the Sphinx, and how you can see that the younger Dryas affecting the Sphinx and the pyramids like that.